Hello everyone, Mark here with Mark's Max Muscle, and as you may have guessed, it is progress report time for the 2000 decade Gladiator Round Tournament. Of course, the challenge rounds for this decade, they're all done, they're all wrapped up. And right out of the chute, I have to apologize once more, and this is the final time for this case. I had a premature Gladiator round. I had Ronnie Coleman versus Victor Martinez, and Ronnie Coleman advanced. So he's the first to advance in this tournament, much like Kevin Levrone for the 1990 decade. But that is it. That is the final time. I never did any more. So anyway, that match already happened. But Ronnie Coleman was able to advance over Phil Heath in a great matchup. Of course, Phil was able to advance in a different decade. Victor Martinez was able to topple the great Chris Cormier in a good match. As always, Chris Cormier was able to enter another challenge round for the 1990 decade, but he failed to advance, so he lost twice. Anyway, next match we have Bob Chiarelli versus Melvin Anthony. Should be a good one. Bob Chiarelli was able to place ahead of Orville Burke, surprising to me. Melvin Anthony was able to topple the great Sonny Schmidt. Of course, if Sonny had a reign supreme there, he would have entered the 1990 decade. Anyway. Next match, we have Johnny O. Jackson versus Chris Dim. Johnny O. Jackson was able to place ahead of Akeem Williams to advance in this tournament. And Chris Dim surprised me with a victory over David Henry. Very controversial there. I received a lot of negative comments, or not negative comments, but in favor of David Henry winning that one. And I can't blame anyone. Anyway, for the final match of that side of the brackets, we have Branch Warren versus Quincy Taylor. Branch Warren was able to place ahead of Dennis Wolf in a great match. Dennis Wolf, by the way, was able to advance in the 2010 decade, so he's able to go on. Quincy Taylor was able to place ahead of Ernie Taylor in a very controversial match. I'm still upset about this match, but I made my decision and I stick with it. Anyway, way over on the other side of the brackets, we started off with Jay Cutler versus Silvio Samuel. Jay Cutler was able to place ahead of Paco Bautista in his challenge round. Silvio was able to place ahead of Ronnie Raquel in a very controversial match. A lot of people were rooting for Ronnie Raquel there, as was I. But I go with who I decide here, people. I pick my favorite every time. These brackets would be totally different. In the next match, we have Lee Priest versus Dennis James. An excellent match. Lee Priest was able to place ahead of Mark Dugdale in a very recent match. Dennis James was able to place ahead of Gustavo Bedell in a very, very close decision. Next match, we have Art Atwood versus Tony Freeman. Should be a good one there. Art Atwood was able to topple King Kamali in a very good match. Tony Freeman was able to best Gunther Schlerkampf in a nice little matchup. For the last matchup, we have Ahmed Heydar versus Dexter Jackson. Ahmed was able to topple Mustafa Muhammad in, I believe it was the final matchup of this decade for the challenge rounds. Dexter Jackson was able to overthrow Durham Charles quite handily, I might add, to enter this tournament. Anyway, those are the brackets for this decade. It may seem like a little bit of a weak lineup, but considering we just had the 1990 brackets done, well, any decade would look weak compared to that. I believe the 1990s was perhaps the strongest decade of all time, perhaps, of bodybuilding. Who knows what the future holds, but I would wager to say it never would ever beat the 1990s. Just incredible lineups. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day.